The lesson isn't always necessarily in the success. The lesson is in the failure.
Hello world, Fabian DeMarco, Scar Tissue Podcast, you know the deal. I am a little bit nasally today, I'm coming down with a cold, so bear with me on that. But I'm also joined by the great Oscar McMahon. Now if you don't know his name, I'm sure you'll know his product, Young Henry's Beer, especially if you live on the east coast of Australia. They're probably Australia's largest craft beer companies, one of them anyway. They're sold in over 1,000 venues across the country. All the major distributors, BWS, Dan Murphy's. But they didn't start out that way, and this is an amazing story. It's a story about how do you grow a business, how do you scale a business without losing the thing that made it so special to begin with? How do you not lose touch with your community? How do you not sacrifice your creativity? How do you not sacrifice your values? And that's a very rare thing to hear in companies that are successful. So that's what this story is all about today. It's a story also about inclusivity, not exclusivity, about authenticity, about relationships, struggles, success. It's got the whole thing, and it's got beer, and that's the way that you should listen to this episode, I think, because that's the way it was recorded. Go out, get a 6-pack, or a little bit more maybe, of your favorite Young Henry's beer, and enjoy the show. Don't forget though, if you do enjoy it, subscribe, tell your friends, give me a 5-star review. If you didn't like it, like I say all the time, don't tell anybody, just turn this thing off. But I really do hope you enjoyed the show as much as I enjoyed recording it. Without further ado, Oscar McMahon.
What am I going to start on? What beer are we, what do I need? Tell me.
What do you need?
What do I need?
Well, look, it's Thursday afternoon. Let's not get too carried away just yet. Why don't you start with a stayer? Mid-strength, easy drinking.
Okay. Young Henry's Stayer, mid.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I'm doing it, so you know it's safe.
Yeah, give you the tester first, eh?
Always.
Live. Checking. Beautiful. Look at this. We're going to try to go live on the Instagram. How you going, Oscar? There we go.
How are you?
Yeah, there we go. You didn't even show the logo. We know how it is. Beautiful. Oscar, brother, how did you get into this?
Look, it's kind of it's a funny story, really. I got into beer like most young Australian men. You know, you drink beer because your father does and the people around you do, and I guess, you know, as young fellas, we sort of started noticing that, you know, we got a taste for slightly better beers like Cooper's, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because that's what my dad used to drink. And, you know, through playing in bands and then eventually bartending, just started tasting different beers when I travelled or, you know, went to different bars.
Yeah.
I guess beer became just, you know, not my main focus by any stretch, but it just became, you know, a part of my life. I was just into music, I was into skateboarding, I was into beer, you know. And then I was working in a pub in Glebe and met this guy called Richard Adamson, who ended up being one of the other founders of Young Henry's. And he was a brewer, professional brewer. And we originally hit it off.
So he was working there at the Glebe, or
No, I was working there. He was just a customer.
Right.
He'd just come in for beers, you know, and we just started chatting over the bar, you know. Like we mainly started talking about music, to be honest, and became friends and started up a beer appreciation club in the pub.
Out of the pub you're working at?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and I guess through, this is going back now 9 or 10 years. So I guess the beer scene was really different. You know, people in Sydney didn't have the direct access to so many interesting especially craft beers,
Yeah.
as you do now.
Yeah.
So
10 years ago wouldn't have been.
it was completely different. So this little beer club was just word of mouth, but a lot of people started getting really into it. Turning up was basically a bunch of people. I say people because even then it was mixed. There was boys and girls that would come to it. People would sit around, drink these different beers, talk about them, taste them. It was a really fun, really sort of connected little crew.
When you say little, how many people would be turning up to this sort of thing?
Oh, look, we generally have 20 to 30 people turn up every month.
That's pretty good.
Word of mouth only, and it grew to have 120 members that would come and go,
Oh, wow.
And, the idea for Young Henry's kind of came out of one of those nights where Rich said, how cool it'd be to have a beer company that was as connected to the people drinking the beer as Beer Club is. And, I guess we were, a bit pissed. It was late at night, like, yeah.
That's all good ideas come from.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
We can do it. You're good. I'm good. We can do this.
Yeah. And it was a really funny thing that, like anything I say now about that startup phase, obviously I'm talking about in hindsight.
Yeah, you're reflecting. Right, yeah.
We didn't. Well, at least I didn't have a clear definition of what the brand should be or anything like that. But we both sort of, not just us, the other shareholders as well, we were all aware that there was no beer company that was talking directly to what we liked, as people.
So wait, okay. You started off 30 people a month, goes to 120 people a month, a couple of drinks, you're like, fuck it, we can do this, we can create a beer that connects to people. From there, you said shareholders. How did you go about that? So did you know people? How do you go from let's make a beer to let's go find some investors?
Okay, that was way too quick a jump. I guess there was a lot of time of sitting around, meeting up at cafes and pubs and writing down ideas and basically trying to form what sort of business it was going to be. Basically writing a business plan.
Yeah.
And then getting this sort of this bound business plan out to a bunch of different people, and it was interesting that a couple of people had heard about, through friends. Oh yeah, they're these guys trying to open a brewery, and this I guess this business plan started getting handed around to a few different people, and a weird collection of sort of people all kind of came together, and everyone sort of agreed. Sort of everyone saw eye to eye.
Did you know, like, when those people that the investors that you had, I don't know if they're the same ones that you have now as the initial ones, but those ones there, did you know them already and you approached them, or were they within that network? Or who did you speak to first?
Do you know what? To be honest, I didn't know them personally. They all came through friends of friends. They were all through,
Yeah. So what
networks and connections?
Right. So you were talking about, hey, to whoever your friends and whatever, and you guys were saying we want to turn this, we want to create our own beer product now, our own beer company, and then people were saying, well, you should speak to X, or let me go speak to Y about that.
Yeah,
is that how it kind
absolutely.
Of works?
It's one of those weird things where I guess if you once the idea was sort of formed enough that we could put it down on paper, then you start telling people about it.
Yeah, right.
Because then,
it becomes real as well. Like once you've started to write something down, there's this feeling. I don't know about you. I know myself. As soon as I put a pen to paper, it just feels more real. It's
Absolutely.
Out of my head now, and I'm taking action on something.
Because it's not a thought anymore. It becomes something actual.
Exactly.
Which is, even something written on a page can be, well, I don't need to hold that in my memory anymore. Now it's somewhere.
I agree. And then when you tell people about it, you got this social contract with them to say, shit, now I've kind of got to follow through with it, because they're going to keep asking you, hey, how you going with the beer company, right? It's the same with dieting, because I've got this health technology company, and do a lot of research about why some people stick to goals and why other people don't. And one of the interesting things that came up about it was this whole idea of social contracting, being that if I tell someone that I'm going to do something, the likelihood of me following through with it increases purely because I don't want to let that person down. Same with these business ideas. I know when you start telling people about something, then it becomes like, well, people are going to keep you accountable to it. So
absolutely,
it becomes a lot more real.
And it's also, I think it's also as much that as, you need to affirm it yourself. You need these constant affirmations of saying out loud, I'm starting a business.
Yeah.
Keep reminding yourself.
Yeah.
And I think also you do need, in that original phase, you do need people to go, oh, that's cool.
Just to believe in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. You need to see people actually reacting positively to an idea.
Yeah.
Because at that time, all you've got is an idea, and you need to be able to tell people that you trust and see their reaction to it.
Well, it'd be easy to shoot it down. Okay, so if I had friends, I've got friends that are in bands, friends that love beer, let's say the same person, friends that work at bars, the same person that you would have been 10 years ago. And if that person said to me that, hey, listen, I want to create my own beer company, I'd say, well, there's already beer out there. What's so different about your beer? Or why is your beer going to work versus, Lion's the big conglomerate over there? What are you going to do any different? Did you have people like that coming to you going, well, why would this actually work? Did you already...
Yeah, you know what? I definitely had a couple of people.
And did you start getting detoured, like from people, even in your own thoughts, like, can I actually do this thing?
I mean, I have a really clear memory of waking up in the middle of the night while we were in the middle of the build and just thinking, what have we done?
Yeah.
Like,
holy shit, can we go back?
Can we do this? Build
as in build of the
actually building the brewery. Yeah.
Brewery, sorry.
That's all good. Man, you know what? I generally think that I'm a pretty positive person, and through that I listen to people's positivity as opposed to remember people's negativity.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my life, there's nothing on my CV that makes me the best person for this job. You know what I mean? There's nothing in my track record that says, oh yeah, you should open a brewery. You'd be perfectly capable of this.
Did you study business or anything like that?
No.
Nothing, right? So it was skating, music, beers.
I studied event and entertainment design at MWA TAFE. So look, that's an interesting little bit of experience that sort of feeds into what we do.
I think that's, and by the way, if you hear any weird grunting noises in the background, I'm enjoying Young Henry's Stayer for the audio listeners. But I think that's probably what's made this so successful, because there's what I find, even with myself, that's probably a bad setup for what I'm about to say, but sometimes you can be too smart for your own good. And what I mean by that is, because you know something so in depth, you talk yourself out of doing... You talk yourself out of the creativity of it all, right? I mean, there's a lot of value in a level of naivety. I'm like, I don't know how hard this is going to be. I don't know what I'm going to face. I don't know what the brand should be. If you look from an expert perspective, they'll say, okay, what's your business plan? What's your
strategy?
Yeah, what's your exit strategy? Always the first one. What's your exit strategy? What's your brand going to be? What's your brand positioning? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the market? What's your they're going to ask you all these questions so the point you get kind of talked out of it. And so if you already know that stuff, sometimes you talk yourself out of it because you're like, shit, it just seems too difficult to do. That level of naivety that you had, and I don't know if that's the right word for it, but that level of just not knowing how difficult things were going to be and whatever else, and not having that experience already setting up businesses and going through all that sort of process of branding and investments and helped you guys to create something from its initial stage from a place of authenticity and what's come out to be a beautiful, a genuine product.
I think naivety is the right word.
Yeah.
I mean, I was naive to think that I could do it. But you know what? It's one of those things that if you open your own business, guess what? Something happens, you're in there doing it. You just have to find a way. You have to, I don't know if there's any business course that really will set someone up to open their own business and do it effectively. Because, like you said, if you worry too much about the bottom line, you can be risk adverse, and I think a large part of business is, exciting business is taking the right risks.
Taking the right risks, yeah.
Because we were entering into a vastly changing industry in an interesting time in the market.
So this is going back 2008, 2009?
So we sold our first beer on the 12th of April 2012. So we got the keys to our warehouse on 1st of November 2011. Right. And we, all of the local pubs around had really restrictive, tap contracts. There wasn't a lot of craft beer available in pubs and bars back then.
Sorry to interrupt. How did that work? So how did those contracts work?
Lone Nathan and CUB, they basically owned. I think it was 90-something% of the taps in Australia, and over the last, just through tap contracts. You know how back in the day you'd always see it was a Carlton pub or a Dewey's pub.
Yeah.
And that has started lessening a little bit.
Yeah.
They're sort of...
Why was that the case? Did they say, we'll give you this, but you can only sell our beer? Like, how did that sort of stuff work?
Yeah, they pay people to write contracts.
Right.
Which, excludes other products from being sold within. So
if you want this, you can't do that. Exclusivity in it. Okay, I didn't know that.
And for the most part, that's actually changing in especially in all the metros around the country. People are wanting more variety, and which is really great. So anyway, we were in this really weird place in the market. Where we couldn't really afford to do bottling and canning because that's a lot more expensive. So we were doing a keg business, totally a wholesale business at first, and had no real go-to-market strategy. We literally just got in there and just wanted to start doing it.
Yeah,
just
to get it out there.
Yeah, just naive. Let's do this. But with a lot of energy, like when you start a band, it doesn't matter that no one's getting paid. Everyone turns up to rehearsals. You got a hangover, you turn up. Doesn't matter. Everyone's, that energy is really. That's the energy that I think drives and makes startup businesses exciting. Because you've got people in there that live it and they breathe it, and that's their everything. It makes it vital, it makes it exciting. People are pouring everything they've got into something.
It's not about the money, it's about the love and belief in what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in our case, everyone put everything that they had, literally everything that they had, into this business.
Yeah.
And so you'd never think about failure if everything that you had is in this business. You just don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. There's no option. It has to work.
Exactly, but in some really strange way, we also avoided making just financially based decisions. We started making decisions like, do we think this is cool? Do we think this is fun? Do we,
Did you have investors by that point when you were around that stage?
Well, no, we were just a bunch of, what was it? There was 4 or 5 of us that just, and the bank. The bank was a large part of our life back then.
So you got a business loan? Is that how you kicked off the first production bit? How did you do that?
It was a bunch of cash from, as all of us, as much as we could get our hands on, and then 2 family homes got mortgaged.
Yeah.
Put up as security. It was, it was pretty full on.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Okay, and then, so when did you start taking on investors? At what point did you go, okay, we need that now?
We took on a little bit of extra money around towards the end of year 2, year 3 maybe. Just
So by that point, you still doing kegs then, or are you into bottling and canning or whatever?
that was no, we were still predominantly in kegs at this stage. Just the business had started rolling. It was just going so well, and we saw that the industry was changing. You know?
Industry is in the preference to start moving away from the big brands to more specialized boutique, handcrafted, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the sort of craft beer boom started happening.
Yeah.
Which was really exciting. I think that we managed to be a part of a time where a lot of people were coming to craft beer for the first time.
Yeah.
Which was really awesome to be a part of that. And, you know, we definitely weren't the first craft beer company by any stretch, you know. But it just felt like we were a part of this
wave that was coming through.
Wave of new people coming to craft beer, you know.
Yeah. You rode the hipster movement. You were right at the front of that.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
man. Yeah.
That's great. Hey, listen. As I know there's some negativity about it, but whenever you see hipsters, I see money. That's what I see. I see they're going to rejuvenate a community. They're going to invest into things. So yeah,
that's exactly it. Look, it was a really funny time. I think that I've said this before a couple of times. But
I'm going to grab one of these new talents. Keep going.
Yeah, please. The small bar licensing and the small bar movement changed our industry because it changed hospitality industry.
Okay.
So small bars have got small capacities, and they are an alternative to what people had at the time. Mm-hmm. Everyone just had pubs, right?
Big pubs, yeah.
Venues. So the big pubs had the only licenses in town. They didn't really have to overthink their offering too much because, well...
Where is it going to go?
Exactly. Small bars pop up. They have small capacities. So they can afford to be niche, you know?
Well, they have to be, because I can't serve you the same thing you're going to get at a big place with only a capacity of 10, 15 people and charge you what they're charging. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they become niche, or they were always going to be niche anyway, because that's, you know... So they become the sort of the counterculture to the big pubs. We started doing business with a few of these smaller bars. Big pubs started seeing their customers weren't frequenting their premises as much. Started doing their research, checking out, you know, like publicans were afraid of these small bars.
Yeah.
Who are these people coming in, you know, opening these small, cheap licensed places and stealing my customers? And that set off a really positive thing of, you know, publicans and hotel groups going into these small bars and looking around and going, well, all right, they've got independent beer on, they've got good wine lists, they're actually doing good food. All right, well, we need to up our game.
Yeah, it raised the bar of what the expectation of the patron was.
Exactly. Okay. And so all of a sudden you've got, you know, pub groups and pub owners going, well, all right.
What do you got? Yeah, how do we start playing their game?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so who were your first type of customers when you were still in the early first couple of years, just kegs? Who were your first customers? Were they small bars, or were they locals that you already had, you knew through the community, or what? Who was that?
So some of our first customers were the Petersham Bowling Club.
The best bowling club in Petersham, by the way.
Yeah. The Sydney Theatre Company, bar at the end of the wharf.
Okay.
Arcadia Liquors. What were some of the other ones? The Union Hotel in Newtown.
Yeah.
They went all craft, and I remember one evening hearing like a knock on the warehouse door, opening up, and there was this young guy on a skateboard. Oh, hey man, I heard that there was a brewery. I'm from the pub up the road, the Union. You know, wanted to come and see, like, check out your beers. his name was Hamish. He ended up working for us for years. He actually still works for us casually as a brewer. Really nice guy. He got us into the union. We basically had this list of like places we'd like to have our beer on, and it was about 10 joints, I think. And once we'd hit up those 10 joints, you know, the ones I've just said and a few others, we just said, okay, well, that's enough. That's all we can really do for now. Let's see how we go. And you know, getting production right is really hard.
Okay, so when you said you got those, you hit up those 10 places, did those 10 places sign up, or those 10 places you just contacted?
Yeah, 10 places we contacted. I think we got 8 out of the 10.
Okay, so you got 80%. That's amazing.
Yep.
And then it came down to fulfillment. So how do you make sure that your fulfillment meets the requirements that they have at that point?
Yeah.
Okay, so that goes to that stage.
Yeah.
Was that okay? Did you?
No, we sucked at that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. You know, like all of a sudden we're operating a production facility, you know?
Yeah.
So production facility based around the timelines of, you know, live yeast.
Yeah.
And waiting for beers to ferment and, you know, equipment that we're getting used to, all this sort of stuff. And
sorry, your partner, Rich, did he have familiarity? Geez, I'm having too many beers now. Was he familiar with that level of production, or has he only done micro level of production before that?
so he had never operated a brewery. Sorry, he'd never run a production facility full time.
Yeah.
But he had been a brewer and had overseen brewing in the past.
Are they different things?
They are
So
different.
by being a brewer and running a production line, different things.
Well, so being a brewer,
Part of the process.
exactly. Being a brewer really is working day in, day out on a brewery, whereas his last beer company didn't have a brewery. They contracted most of their stuff.
Okay.
So he wrote recipes and he oversaw all of the production. However, wasn't actually intrinsic in there day in, day out.
So this was a new thing for him as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it was deep end for everyone. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, exactly.
Sink or swim.
So we're just in there, and you know, we had a really great network of people that believed in us and believed in our products. And if we ran out of beer on a Friday afternoon, you know, and I remember calling Dave from Arcadia Liquors and saying, "Man, I'm so sorry, we're just not going to get this beer out." And he's like, "Dude, it's Friday afternoon.
Yeah, this is our big day.
This is important for us." I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm so sorry, dude." And he's like, "All right, you bring it as soon as you can next week." You know, and we had a lot of people that were like that and let us learn as we were going, and were actually really patient and incredible. I don't think beer companies in this current market probably get as much lenience because it's so busy. There are I mean, you know, back then there was 180 breweries, and now there's 550 to 600, something like that. You know, the space is full. It's competitive. You know, you don't have beer to me by Thursday, mate. Someone else is going on.
Someone else
you know?
is coming in.
And like that's understandable.
Yeah. Well, okay. So timing's played its role in that then. Okay. So you have this 8 places out of 10 that you've now signed up. You've got the production somewhat okay. How do you? What's the next step there? So take me through the next step.
I think the next step there was we started working with other people. So we started doing collaborative beers, as in we would get together with a different group of people and we would work on a concept for a beer and we'd make it and release it together.
Yeah, right.
You know, the first guy that we made a collaborative beer with was Peter Fenton, who was he's an actor, and he also played in a band called Crow in the 90s. And he wrote this really amazing manifesto of what it was like in Newtown in the 90s. And so we wrote a beer recipe based on some of the lines in this manifesto, and created this really awesome dark spiced lager. And then we did a little launch party in the brewery. His band played in the brewery, which we're not allowed to do anymore. Mind you, I don't think we were allowed to do it back then either.
Yeah, at that stage, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And that was just a really fun project. We didn't really think about it as being, anything but how cool to work with someone that you respect and to force yourself to find a reason to be a creative. That's basically it. Like, let's get someone else to come in. We work together on a beer, and then we put it out, and we throw a party. Like that's that simple. That was not a strategy. That was just something that we did, and we started doing that. Now, if you want to be, cynical, you can look at it and say, "Oh yeah, well, okay." You get someone else with a database, and you put your two databases together, and all of a sudden you're marketing to double the people that you were before. But yeah, it really wasn't a strategy like that.
But this is going back to what I was saying before, that I think some of at least a portion of your success comes from that authenticity of where you come from. That's from that creative space. You don't come from a business background where you've created this company for the commercial outcome of it. You've created this product out of the creative outlet it provides you, extending from your experience in playing music and stuff. But there's a creativity and an authenticity that you're bringing to it. So what you just said there was we wanted to create something that allowed us to express our creativity, bringing in the thing that we love through the music and the lyrics and through our beer itself. So how do we collaborate from a creative perspective, which creatives do all the time, right? So outside of the thing, park the business side, but from the creative side, creatives always collaborate. So how do I bring your thinking and my thinking together to create something really cool? How do I bring your genre, rock and roll or metal and hip hop together to create a new, walk this way?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
man.
This is sort of stuff that I think there's a beauty to it. My question is right now, and I'm jumping ahead a lot. I wanted to keep this linear, but fuck it. How do you maintain that level of authenticity in your creativity now when you have a lot of commercial pressure to keep earning?
First and foremost, if an opportunity presents itself, make your decision before you look at the financials.
Yeah.
Like, really.
What's that decision based on? Is it based on what?
Gut feel. Does it feel good? Are you into it? Are you excited by it?
Yeah.
Does like, do you actually respect this person? Do you think, hey man, we could learn something from this? We could actually this could be really cool. Hey, are our brewers going to be into this? Are the rest of our team going to be psyched on this? Now that we've got a bigger team, we actually run ideas past other people, and we take the temperature. In a meeting with our marketing crew the other day, I brought an opportunity to them, and I wasn't super excited about it, but I was like, I reckon this is probably going to be good. And I presented it to them with as much enthusiasm as I could put into it, and everyone was like, look, I don't know, I'm just not excited about it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, cool. And we said, all right, well, maybe it's not a beer. Maybe it's something like this. And they were like, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be really cool. Yeah, let's work with these people, but it's not a beer.
Yeah.
And it was just this really interesting thing that just the gut wasn't right.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a meeting where we weren't breaking it down saying, whoa, we could sell X amount of beer in Queensland and Melbourne, and nothing like that. It was just about, how does this make you feel? Because really, every good decision and every bad decision we've made has been on gut feel. And if I look back with hindsight, every bad decision that we've made, someone knew that it didn't feel right.
Feel right, and they did it anyway.
So you can't make exciting decisions based on the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so we continue to do that. But now, and this is how we've matured, is that now when we say, yeah, this is exciting, let's do it, we now do a cost analysis, and we actually break it down now, and we actually look through it and say, okay, this is how it will actually go.
Well, you needed to.
Of course.
Because
it's a business.
It's a business as well. Yeah, exactly. It's a business at the end of the day. I mean, if you want it to last, it has to be a business. I think where a lot of the early startups that are based on hobbies or creatives fail is that they lose the sight of that it is still a business, and that for people to be able to enjoy the thing that they're creating, it has to be a business, otherwise it sinks. So you can be a fantastic creative person and do something from the love of your heart and have all this authenticity, but if you can't manage the books right, if you can't get it in front of the people that actually want your product, and you can't manage that cash flow, et cetera, then that's it for your dreams. It all ends. So the balancing act becomes, and this is where I'll probe in a bit later, the balancing act becomes, how do you still be commercially viable without losing the authenticity of your brand and of your product? And you touched on it before, that you go with your gut, but there's definitely more within when you start asking questions about scale. So at what point do you say, well, now we'll start working with these people, or now at this point we'll start taking on that type of investment? And as soon as you start crossing those lines, expectations change. Expectations are, well, you have to meet this because you're obligated by X contract or X investment or X exit or whatever it is. But let's take a step back. So did you take in? So once you started getting some traction and you're going okay, you've got some people ordering and you start getting your production stuff a little bit better. Where was the exponential growth? Where did that start happening?
Exponential growth started happening when we launched Newtowner,
which is what I'm enjoying now, by the way. You find it at all your favourite local liquor stores and hotels. Keep going.
It was around Newtown's 150th birthday. Chamber of Commerce of Newtown approached us and asked if we wanted to make a beer to celebrate Newtown's birthday. We're like, yep, sounds cool.
And just for everyone's reference, and I'm just going to double check your mind, you guys are based in Newtown, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And so
that's in Sydney for the Korean listeners. Apparently I have, hopefully south, but anyway.
Yeah, so we made this beer for Newtown's birthday, and it was going to be a one-off, you know? And it was the first time that we'd approached the Courthouse Hotel, which is like the big quintessential Newtown pub. Because we thought, look, Newtown's birthday, what's the quintessential pub that if we brewed a beer for Newtown, where should it be? So we said to, we called Aaron, the licensee, and said, look, you know, we're brewers from down the road. We're making a beer for Newtown's birthday. Is there any chance you'd like to have it on tap? Because we're going to have, you know, a party for Newtown. She was like, yeah, great. All right, no worries. She ordered like 18 kegs, which was a whole batch, and we were like, oh my God, like no one's ever ordered 18 kegs before. Holy shit.
How much is a keg worth to you guys?
You know, what that would have been like $250.
Beautiful.
You know?
Okay, yeah.
So that's big.
Yeah, beautiful.
Like we didn't even have a vehicle big enough to do that in one delivery. They had to, you know, drive
we'll
up
work
a
out that
times.
later. Yeah,
Gotcha. So anyway, we did that. Newtown's birthday comes and goes, and you know everyone turns up to the pub, and we went through that whole batch of beer within a week. So we just like, holy shit, we gotta do this again. Brewed it again. They put it on again, and same thing. Just yeah. So we've got this one pub who's going through like almost a batch of beer every week for a while. So we're like, well, we need to make more of this. And this beer just started becoming super popular. People were going and having it somewhere else, and then calling the brewery, going, "Hey, I want to get that beer on." And so, you know, eventually, we got to this point where this beer was popping up throughout most of the pubs in Newtown, and we couldn't actually make enough of it. So we just held it to Newtown only. And around for about a year, you could only buy Newtowner if your pub or bar was in Newtown.
What year is this, roughly? You said the 100 and...
Yeah, so I'm thinking this is between 2014 to 2000 and... Yeah, probably mid-2016, really.
Right, so about, give or take, 2 to 4 years in your journey.
Yeah, exactly. And... anyway, so...
Pubs started picking it up.
Pubs started picking it up, and people from, obviously, outside of Newtown are calling us all the time asking for this beer. And we're saying no. And it just became... It kind of became ridiculous. Yeah. Your people calling, potential customers.
Yeah. You go back 2 years, you're calling up everyone and you're getting no. Well, sometimes getting no's, and now you're getting people calling you and you're saying no.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Like, no, we couldn't possibly call you.
Yeah.
Right, so we couldn't possibly let you have that beer. You know, you're not from the postcode. So, look, you know, there's benefits to that. You know, if you want to be just local brewery servicing your local area, totally cool. And we just thought, well, like this craft beer industry is sort of, it's rolling, and, you know, we're really proud of this beer, and we're really proud of where we're from, Newtown. So we actually called a bunch of people, like, we called Lou from Mary's, we called Aaron from the Cordy, we called, you know, someone from the Marley, and just said, hey, we're thinking of letting Newtowner out of Newtown. How do you feel about it? We actually called our important customers to say, like, is it all right? And every single one of them said, as long as I don't run out,
that's okay.
Let it go. And so we reinvested. We bought some new tanks, some bigger tanks.
Did you get investment by that point?
No.
This is still...
This is probably still just us. And, yeah, I think that at that point... once we put in those bigger tanks, they just were always full with Newtowner, and it just started rolling, just started going crazy.
Demand was there.
Yeah,
you had to meet the supply.
Yep. And then, so I guess that actually sort of led to us, you know, needing to take on a little bit more finance, because we're just like, well, we're not keeping up. There's more demand. There was more demand than what we could fulfill, and it just...
The best problem.
Yeah, it's that growing.
But it's an interesting problem.
Well...
Because that can sink you at the same time.
Of course. Right? I mean... Oh, you know, a good problem to have is something that gets said a lot, you know. Oh, yeah, you know, you've got a lot of demand and you can't fulfill it. Good problem to have. Is like, well, yeah, but it's still a problem.
Still a problem, yeah.
It's still a problem, because someone's not going to be sitting around waiting for you to get your shit together.
Exactly right.
You know?
Exactly right. And then if you have commitments to them and you can't fulfill on it, or if they make a large order and they don't pay on time, next thing you know, you're in a cash flow problem.
Exactly. And a good problem to have when you're a business owner, that good problem will still give you stress.
Yeah.
It will still...
More money, more problems.
Oh, man, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so then you start expanding out of Newtown. Where are you? So what's your reach today, just to give perspective?
Our reach today...
everywhere, right? It's everywhere in Australia? You guys not international? That you just...
No, we're not international, but we sell... we sell nationally now.
Yeah. And your biggest market is East Coast, Australia, especially New South Wales.
Absolutely. New South Wales, Melbourne, Brisbane. Yeah.
Okay. So when you took on investment, what was sorry, just take a step back from did you get, are you still at kegs at this point, or did you go into beers and cans and bottles?
We were just transitioning towards cans.
Right.
So we went into cans first.
We went to cans first, which is what we're enjoying now. An investment allowed you to do that? Is that what allowed you to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things.
One of the things, yeah.
Okay, and did you do the canning? Is that the right word for it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just took a shot. I was going to say bottling, canning, whatever. Did you do that internally, or did you have a third party that would do the canning? So you do the production of the beer, bring it to them, they do the canning part.
Well, that was a funny one. So we originally built a brewery in WA,
Wait, we say originally when did you do this?
So when we took on investment, we
Right.
built a brewery in WA with a canning line.
Was that to reduce costs to distribute over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I was going to say, that's the only reason I could think of why you'd do that.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to have an east and a west coast home, and we set up that West Australian brewery to actually do all of our canning. But along the way, along the way of building that other brewery, we sort of split with one of our business partners, which was really
That would have been hard, right?
I
I want to say that because I have never seen. Well, I'm not saying never. It does happen. From my experience, splitting of business partner relationships rarely goes well, just as any other relationship.
Oh, look, I'm not gonna.
You don't have to go into specifics.
Yeah,
this wasn't good.
Look, it wasn't positive.
Yeah.
I think just sometimes, we were trying to operate sort of two different businesses on two different sides of the country, and views just sort of skewed in a slightly different direction. That was really hard thing, big lesson. And so from there, we'd just entered the market with cans, and so we had to, instead of, doing these cans out of the brewery that we just built, we had to find contract partners to actually fulfill the cans because we just entered the market with them.
And what does that do to your cost?
It increases them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it increases them. It also... No one cares about your beer as much as you do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right.
it made us basically have to create a really strict quality control program and spend as much time as we can looking after, focusing on these other people who were making our beer. And, that's
Who
been...
you were paying to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to something that you were saying before was Young Henry's was built on a belief in the people, and it wasn't as much about it paid. I'm sure by this point people were getting paid, but the foundations of what you did was based on people's love and admiration and belief in the product and the brand itself. So now you're going to an external party who haven't been brought up with that belief yet. So there's a whole, like you said, that leads to things like quality control issues and things like that.
Absolutely. So all these things along the road, they forced us to mature as people and as a business. And look, we're better for it. We now have a really, really incredible quality assurance program internally and externally, and we now produce really consistent, really good quality beer. And that's a large part of it is just through having to focus on that, And we built a lab. We had this guy, Daniel Von Brews, who...
Very cool name.
Very cool name. Bit of a nutcase. But he was a really great guy. He came and he started working for us on the bar, and he has a scientific mind. And so in the early days, he started setting up a lab for us. And basically, he, over the last 5 years, he set up a lab in Young Henry's in one of the offices where we now have, laminar flows and an air-locked micro room, and we got everything now. It's really, really funny. And so this guy who basically just had this leaning towards quality and microbiology and, beer science, set up this lab and set up our quality control program. And yeah, it was really, really amazing. And he's done a couple of talks at beer conferences and brewer conferences on how to set up a craft beer lab on a small budget.
Shoestring budget.
Because everything that we got in those early days was, secondhand from universities or TAFEs or, other labs. And it was, basically, it was the Young Henry's equivalent of a lab. You know what I mean? It was well, let's do what we can and just keep getting better and improving it, and really cool. And so now we have a fully functioning quality assurance program where every single beer gets signed off by people from all levels of the company and gets microbiologically scrutinized and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it's interesting that because sometimes you have to go through the bad in order to realize, in order to learn the most. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, sometimes the fact that in this case, the fact that you had to go through this third party, for example, and had to, were forced to be more focused on that quality because you weren't there, it wasn't within your own ecosystem exactly, that it made you guys more conscious of how important quality assurance was. So that allows you to invest in people or put your faith in people like this to who are focused specifically on that.
I actually think that probably the more important learning out of all these things is that you've usually got the knowledge somewhere within your network to overcome any problem. Something that we've always been good at as a business is listening to people within our business and listening to people around our business. And, we don't have all the answers. We don't. We listened to this guy who was a mad homebrewer and worked casually on our bar and at events. We listened to this guy who said, I think you guys should be running a lab. I think you guys should be looking at your yeast health. I think, you guys should be doing different diacetyl checks and all this sort of stuff. And we're like, okay. Instead of being like, mate, you don't know what you're talking about. Get back in your box. I was like, no, okay, cool. We could learn from this. Great.
One thing, the parallel I'll make here is with what I was asking Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix. When there was a pivotal change that happened with their business where they went from the model that they had, which was basically pay per DVD hire at the time, was before streaming, to the subscription model. And you pay per month and you can get as many DVDs sent to you per month as you want, right? And you can have them for as long as you want. Now, I said to him, was that your idea or how did that all come about? He said, no, it's not about whose idea it is. He said the success of Netflix, especially in those crucial early days, wasn't about a single person. It was about being open to everyone's opinions. The fact that everyone had something important to say and were open to listening to that is what allowed us to collectively solve problems and come up with these sort of ideas. The fact that we embraced people that came from all different backgrounds with all different experiences, and we made it okay to suggest different things or even to challenge certain things, allowed us to come up with these ideas that created this exponential growth. So like you were just saying then, it was never about you sit in your box, so that's not what you do, and this is my idea and this is the only thing that we're going to go with. It was, let's have a conversation about this. Everyone's opinion is equal. Everyone has experiences in different areas. And we're gonna take it all in, and we'll collectively make the right decision, or hopefully the right decision, and we'll go from there. So it's just an interesting parallel that I make between yourself and someone like Mark, who I would say equally to you is hyper self-aware. He was completely self-aware as you are, with his strengths and weaknesses. It's like, okay, well, I don't have to be the best at everything. I don't have to know absolutely everything. But the fact that I'm in a place that I can openly facilitate these conversations, then that's my place here. And as long as I'm aware that I don't have to be right all the time, that I don't always have to be the one that makes that has to come up with the idea, then we're always going to be collectively part of why this thing is going to work.
If everyone is invested in a positive outcome, it doesn't actually matter whose idea it was.
There you go.
Because the best idea should win.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter whose it is.
And that's where ego, unfortunately, takes over sometimes with the wrong people.
Yeah.
And one other thing that is keeps popping up in this conversation, definitely, is how connected to, and it's just realised this on your beer as well, serve the people, how connected to the community and to the people that you guys are. So from the very start, Young Henrys was born initially out of you two meeting at a bar, setting up a little appreciation club, and then using your own network in order to build out essentially what you've kind of got today. But it's always been about, what do the people care about? What are they interested in? As you started growing bigger, you even spoke to the Marys and the other businesses around your local area. What do you guys think about this? Are you okay with this? You guys are born from the community itself. So when you initially said, I'm going to get this wrong about the brand, but a beer that's connected to the community, was that roughly?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. In the brand marketing world, you can spit out these terms as much as you want, and they don't always mean something. You kind of say them, and you kind of try to find a way to retrospectively make that thing true. You guys, you authentically are from the community, and everything you do, at least from the stories you told me, are in some way connected to that community. So I get why that is your motto.
I think that community is an overused word in marketing and mission statements, because a lot of people don't actually truly get what community is about. Community is about like-minded people coming together, like-minded people that have common interests, shared loves. So for you to be a part of community, you actually need to embody the values of that community. You actually need to stand up for those values. You actually need to do positive things for your community before your community will do anything for you. So many businesses will put community into their mission statement or their values on their wall because, we'd love our community to surround us and buy our shit.
We want them to.
No. It's you first. You first, mate.
Yeah.
You got to get in there. You got to prove to people, like, you got to go first. You know, if you manage to find a little industrial park in Newtown and build a brewery, that is, the community has already just done something for you. You've been bestowed this incredible gift of a fucking cool little site in a fucking cool little suburb. So pay that back, pay that forward. And I think that generosity and true connection to your community, you can't fake that. That's real and people appreciate it. And like me personally, I went to Newtown High School. I went to Enmore Design Centre, TAFE. I live just off King Street. Have done for a long time. I love Newtown, and every day I'm thankful for what Newtown has actually given me in my life. And, I try to repay that all the time. Yeah, man, like, that's...
You guys are a true product of your community. You are. You haven't started from, let's create this and then try to go find the community that makes it work. We're a product of the community. We've earned our trust in the community, and they've believed in us. So now we're going to go and believe in them, and we're going to, keep on doing what we're doing. Another parallel that it just came to my mind, I think a better one here is, and I've told you before we spoke, that I'm friends with Vinny from Naughty by Nature, the 90s hip hop group, and he was the first person I had on this show. And one of the things that he first said to me, I said, how did you become so successful in the 90s? How did you get that national and then global reach? He said, the first thing we had to do was own our backyard in East Orange, New Jersey. He said, our community would tell us if we're on or if we're off, if we're on the money or if we're not. But once we had earned their trust, then they always had us from forever. they were not just our test market, but they were our biggest fans and supporters. So we always start with our own community first. And we test our product always with them and see how they enjoy it and if they love us. And they become our biggest fans and our biggest advocates, and it expands from that point. He said, so whenever, even Frigga said to this day, whenever we do anything, it's always, what does our community think? Let's test it in our community first. Let's see what our community thinks about this. And now he's reinvesting in that community. So I think that parallel is the same, is that you had to get it right in your backyard first. There was no point of just going, you're a guy from Newtown, let's go sell this in Perth.
Naughty by Newtown, man.
Naughty by Newtown. You know what? And he'd be all for that. They've got an OPP wine. So I'll tell you what, I could hit you with Vin. I'm sure he'd be all over it.
That'd be good. That'd be really good.
By the way, I'm on Young Henry's natural lager now. Okay, so we're on the natural
right. We're doing the full tasting session here.
I'm enjoying this. Don't worry. I started drinking beer when I was 21.
Yeah, right. Which
is, for anyone listening, especially if you're Australian, that's very, very late. But the reason why is because I was on spirits. I was wine and spirits, Italian background. I grew up, wine was with everything. I was 4 or 5 years old and have wine with lemonade. It was just what you'd have. It's a spritz, but yeah, that's just what you do. Homemade wine, by the way. Lovely product of feet. And then it wasn't until I backpacked in Europe and I had no money that the cheapest thing I could get for €1 was a litre of beer.
Yeah.
And then I started enjoying it and I started loving it, and there we go.
How funny.
There we go. Okay, so now go.
I've got memories of being younger and, drinking beer because, and this is an interesting thing which came up in a conversation recently. For the most part, I think in Australia, young men have got a social obligation to drink beer, and there's quite a few beers that I've drunk in my life that I don't actually like. I don't like the taste of certain beers, and you drink them because you're supposed to, and because you're out with your mates and you're getting pissed and all that sort of stuff.
I'll call one out, VB. I hate that stuff. Yeah, even though I drink VB, even though I drink beer, I can't stand it. That's the Australian patriotic beer right there.
Yeah, exactly. So what is interesting about, I think, sort of the craft movement, so socially, young men drink beer because that's just what is seen. And a lot of the time, a lot of my female friends, when they were younger, they didn't drink beer because, you know what, I don't like the taste of it. Society doesn't say I should, so I'm not going to fucking drink this thing. So they would look around and find drinks that they like. Through doing beer events, so many times I've had conversations with girls that have said, oh, no, I don't really like beer. Okay, cool. Well, kind of, look, it's all we've got. And they're like, all right, look, I'll try it. Oh, actually, I really like this. So they've got a preconception that, well, they don't like beer, but they just didn't like a certain type of beer.
It's a generalisation.
And because society didn't push them to just keep drinking beer, they had this idea that, oh, I didn't like beer, but it turns out, you know what?
That beer.
I didn't like that beer.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? This has flavour. This is delicious. This is bright. This is fresh. And it's really incredible seeing some of the stats on women drinking beer in Australia now. And I think that so many women are drinking craft beer now because, this is really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's...
no, I think that is interesting. I definitely. I think...
you look at beer marketing as well. It's always been...
Guys,
macho, male, hard work, all that sort of stuff. And like, I mean, you can look at me. Think about me when I was 21. I was 55 kilos with long hair and skinny as fuck, none of that beer advertising spoke to me.
No.
That didn't reflect my life or what I wanted to do,
Yeah, you weren't the blue-collar worker who'd, hard yakka.
Exactly,
come out. I was the same, yeah.
So it's a really interesting thing that I think, the whole craft beer was the antithesis. It was the punk rock. It was the counterculture of what beer had been in Australia. And, craft beer includes people like me, and it includes women. It includes people that don't feel spoken to by big beer or ute marketing. You know what I mean? And it's interesting now that craft beer is growing to the point where it's becoming more mainstream, and you're starting to see, you know, like we've got a partnership with the, you know, South Sydney Rabbitohs now. You know, like it's a craft beer is growing from what felt like
it's less niche. Yeah, it's becoming more mainstream.
Yeah, it's becoming a bigger thing.
Yeah. Then brings me to the point. You guys are in, I don't know how many locations. I don't even know. Do you know how many locations you guys are in across Australia in bars and hotels? It'd be a lot.
On premise, nearly 1,000.
Okay, and then you're in BWS. You're in Dan's as well?
Dan Murphy's.
So you're in all the
Vintage Cellars.
You're in all the major distributors around the country.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you? So you're no longer a niche player. You're still.
What I think so. I've heard it referred to. We're not a microbrewery anymore. We're a national brewery.
Yeah.
I don't really. Yep. That's.
So now that you're this big, now that you're doing however many numbers you're doing in revenue, you have X amount of staff, so you have financial commitments. People can't work for you for free anymore out of purely love and belonging. They have to work for you. Some people are going to work for you just out of the money as well. Simple as that. It's just part of the process. How are you preserving some of the initial identity in what you're doing now? How are you not compromising on the most important things?
People. The people is the most important thing, because if you've got a brand ethos and you have a set of values and you know what they are, you look for that in your people when you're hiring. So when we're hiring, we try to hire, wherever possible, a certain personality type. I won't go too deeply into that, but we try to find fun-loving, humble people who are open-minded. And by having a personality type that is similar, I mean, you think about our business, we've got a logistics arm, we've got a marketing team, we've got an accounting team, we've got a sales team, we have got a brewery and production team, we've got a warehousing team, we've got a bar team. It's like 6, 7 different vocations, all within one business. So the thing that makes all of those different mindsets, like the guy who drives a forklift has got a very different mind to the guy sitting in accounting, who is completely different for the person in marketing. If you can find like-minded personality types and like-minded people, you then have an organism which is respectful of each other. Everyone works shoulder to shoulder. Everyone knows that, well, the salespeople, their stresses are different to what the delivery guy's stresses are. And the people in marketing, their stresses are different to what the accountant's stresses are. Everyone has their own easy bits of their job and difficult bits of their job, and you actually create empathy because like-minded people generally, you know, have empathy for people around them. You know, well, sorry, when they're like-minded, like in a Young Henry's way. And also, once you set a tone and you have got the larger percentage of your business, you know, a really great personality type, it actually positively affects some people who may lean a little bit the other way. They actually get pulled into line. It becomes this incredible sort of self-policing thing where everyone knows
that's the way it is. And if you don't suit this world, then you naturally, organically are going to weed your own self out because I don't feel comfortable here because I think like this or I don't feel that way.
It's get on board or don't.
Yeah, which is an amazing thing. I think a lot of companies strive for that. One word that you used then was an organism, and I think that's a fitting word. If you think of a human body as all these moving parts, the hand, the feet, the head, all this sort of stuff, they're all different parts of the human, but they all work together. right? So even though they're different, the marketing department, logistics department, accounting department, whatever, even though they're all different, they're all connected by the one organism itself. They're all part of the one moving piece. And the things that connect them are the things that allow them all to move collectively together. Yeah. And by having that connection, you're consistently moving the overall being forward.
It's the way that I sort of think about it is that everyone who does a role at Young Henry's, they do it on behalf of Young Henry's. So if a salesperson gets a win and they sell to a new account, they have sold on behalf of us, on behalf of all of us. A delivery driver then delivers on behalf of all of us. The accountant sends an invoice on behalf of all of us. The marketing department, they market that beer so that their customers see it on behalf of all of us. The brewers, they brew on behalf of all of us.
All for one for all.
Exactly. All of us are basically doing our bit towards the greater good. You know, you don't want to have a brewer looking over the books. You don't want to have an accountant necessarily going and doing sales calls. It is all, you know, like the heart of the business is here and everyone is doing their thing, which feeds into that, you know, main goal, which it's, if we can get that right, you don't have interdepartmental fighting, you know, because everyone knows, well, this is my part in the big picture.
That comes from clarity. A part of it comes from a connection, and a part of it comes from clarity, that we're all part of that big picture. What do you think the big picture is at Young Henry's? What do you think is the thing that everyone goes, we all belong to, we're all heading towards the same thing? What is that thing?
The most important thing, I think, at Young Henry's is the values.
Yeah, right.
And everyone that works for us knows the values. You know, everyone knows the YH way. And we all know that we are also a growing company. We've always said, like, man, this thing's rolling and we're going for it. So get on board. So everyone knows that we're progressing. Everyone knows we're moving forward. And everyone knows that we will only grow if we grow in the way that we have all agreed. We're not going to change. We're not going to change the company. We're not going to sacrifice our values for growth. We will only grow in our way. And that's a really important thing. And because everyone in the company knows what those values are and knows what we want to do, then it's easy to be on board. So when, you know, we're going for positive change, not drastic change. We're not sacrificing anything. We're maturing. We're growing, you know?
Maturing, yeah. As long as your values stay the same, then even as you grow, you're still yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the same as a business and as an individual. Cool. As an individual, you can grow. You can, you know, you do grow. You grow from a child, adolescent, adult, and you have kids and so forth. You move, you travel, you take different roles, responsibilities, jobs. But as long as, I think, this is my belief anyway, as long as your values are the same, then inherently you're the same. You're still the same. You know, things you think may change, the things your roles and stuff might change, but as long as your values are the same, then you, the person I know, the person who I knew 20 years ago, are essentially the same person because you still believe the most important things that made you who you were. As soon as you start compromising on your values and your beliefs, I believe you're no longer you. You're a different person because the person I knew wouldn't believe that, wouldn't value that, wouldn't make that important anymore. So I think you can grow, but that doesn't necessarily mean compromising your values and your beliefs, your morals and your ethics about that. So what you're doing is a very conscious growth though. And I think that's very rare. But I think the reason why it's been so successful so far is because you are a part of it. You and your partners are a part of it, and that's trickling down to everyone else. Where I've seen this falter in the past is where the heart of these values and beliefs stem, being usually the founders or the owners, falls apart. They leave, they sell out, they even change their own beliefs or values, and then everything starts falling. And usually that's when you see the company, like, they don't used to be like that anymore. You can even start seeing with Apple, right? It's not the same. It's losing the thing. You can't always articulate it, but it's losing what it was. So I think that's my perspective on what you've been able to do, which I think is a very rare thing.
Look, it is, and we're really appreciative of, the fact that it has gone really well. And I'll reference, you asked before, when did it all start? When did it all start rolling? When did it all start kicking off? And one of the important things for us was I've said like-minded a lot. And I've also said the word community probably a few times. And everyone knows that we're from Newtown. And our beer is called Newtowner. So how do we sell a beer called Newtowner in Brisbane? Well, Newtowner is where we're from, and we're really proud of that. And we're a company that actually embodies the values of our community. So that's cool. I can stand up and say that I'm from Newtown wherever I am in the world, and I'm proud of that. And most people will be like, okay, I can respect that. That's cool. You then start thinking about, well, is a community actually hemmed in by geography? Or is a community actually a group of like-minded people that find themselves in the same place? Yeah, sure, that we have geography in common. We're all in this little, bubble in the inner west. But why do people choose to live there? It's not just because they like the look of the streets. It's because there are a wide variety of restaurants. There's a wide variety of different bars. There's live music. There are creative people. There's
by interest and values and beliefs and everything else.
Exactly. So what is actually the heart of our community? It's actually a bunch of creative people who are interested in food and experience and life and all this other shit. It's like, okay, cool. You know what? So there are people like that in Melbourne. There are people like that fucking everywhere.
To the ends of the world.
Absolutely. So all of a sudden we're like, wow, man, well, so the values of our community are actually the thing which allows us to talk to someone in Fitzroy in Melbourne or in the Valley in Brisbane, because do you know what? Our business actually stands up and says, we should be going out. We should be eating at a whole bunch of different cultures, restaurants. You should take your friends out and, drink nice wine and dance and make noise and be out late, And guess what? Other people are going to agree with that as well. And that was a really, that mindset change for us was, that was huge. That was what allowed us to start talking to people outside of
Newtown.
Outside of Newtown. We're like, man.
Newtown is just a name, right? That resembles just a label for what you connect these things to. But the things that you're connecting to are much bigger than Newtown. They're, like you just said, they're in all these corners of the world. So that's a big acknowledgement to make.
Yeah. You think about Bondi as a brand or Byron Bay as a brand, they are both, I can say those places, the geographical places, and you actually think probably more of a personality type or a lifestyle or a restaurant or a bar or, a holiday that you've been on to Byron. It's these things like a place is geography, but it also resembles, a commonality between its inhabitants.
Yeah. These things, when you mention these places, what you do as a person, I think, is you try to understand them. And when you try to understand something, all you're really doing is trying to reflect on your relationship with it, right? So your relationship with the restaurants, the people, the atmosphere, and you either like it or you don't. But if you enjoy the relationship to it and you understand it, and then you make a decision if you belong to it or not, is when you become a part of that community, and that community can exist anywhere. So my relationship to the places like a Bondi means that I can go to a Byron and go, I feel part of the community, because my relationship is pretty much the same. I get it. The reference points that I have are quite similar. Same with a Newtown or a Fitzroy or a Valley or so forth, right? Is these places exist not because they're identical, but because my understanding, my relationships to what makes them what they are similar.
Yeah, there you go.
Even though it's not just about understanding it, but I have a connection to it. And that connection, for whatever reason, is congruent with who I am. And whenever I go to places like this, I feel at home. I feel comfortable. And so what you've been able to do is understand that identity, whether it's explicit or not. And I'd love to speak to your brand or marketing department about how explicit it's ever become. But the fact is, you inherently know it. Your gut tells you this is where Young Henry's belongs. This is home, whether it be in Newtown or whether it be the other side of the country. The beer and the brand and the business will always have a home where people have a connection, a relationship to its own values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess it is very lucky for us that we have got a product that is movable and that can be attached to good times. Like everything that I've just said or that we've just been talking about, applying that to a coffee brand becomes slightly different.
Yeah.
Attaching that to what's a weird example? A butter brand, How do you do that? We're very lucky that
the type of product you have is often enjoyed.
Lends itself to
moments, though.
Exactly.
I wrote an article about this on LinkedIn not long ago that I did work with a few years back with Diageo and Smirnoff. And one of the insights we looked into was, how do you own memorable moments and what makes a moment so memorable? And part of it is that they're often unplanned and unexpected. They just happen. And the idea is, from a brand perspective, how do you put that brand in those places? How do you make sure that unexpected, unplanned moment your brand or product is a part of? But I think it's kind of the wrong way around in a sense, and where you guys are playing in, which is so much more authentic because it's not planned, is that it's already there. It's already part of the community. And it just so happens that night, that unplanned moment that you stumbled into a bar and this band you never heard of played this song that you never heard of, created this moment that you'll never forget happens. And I think the fact that you are so ingrained in part of the community now is why people will be associating you to those moments and those memories.
Well, I think a large part of our ability to be along for the ride or be a part of these fun experiences has always been that by working with other people outside of your business, sometimes people work with you on your thing, and sometimes you've got to work with other people on their thing. You allow your business to not be focused on itself the whole time. No one wants to hear from a fucking business that only wants to talk about itself all the time. It's like, that's traditional marketing. No one's listening. Yep. Like, dude, as soon as an ad comes on TV, my wife and I, we sit there. Our internet hasn't been on for the last month, so we've been watching free to wear. Awful. Fucking awful. And we don't mute the ads anymore because we actually like to sit around and talk about the ads that are on, because, in like Netflix world, no ads, right? So we're sitting there watching these ads and thinking, like, how much money did some fucking idiot pay or get paid for this? Like, who are you talking to? We're trying to work out who is the person that you're trying to communicate to with this particular campaign, because so many people get it so wrong. I don't know. I've always found that marketing idea of trying to talk to an unknown person. You know, you've been given some data, you've been given a spreadsheet or some stats on, you know, genders and age groups.
35, 45, West Sydney.
Yeah, all this.
Target this person, like that persona. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And then trying to create, you know, characters and things that will speak to a different... It's like, why... You're trying to talk to someone that you don't actually understand. Like, that's so disingenuous. It doesn't make any fucking sense. For us, we're sort of a little bit insular, I guess, in that way, is that we kind of have that field of dreams mentality that, well, if we all internally like it, then we're going to put it out into the world, and we're pretty sure someone else will as well. And we're completely inclusive of whoever that is. Like, we're not going for... We've never had a target demographic. We don't have one because that's exclusive.
Yeah.
That excludes people. As soon as you have a demographic, you are ignoring someone. You know, spoke about briefly beer marketing before. Beer marketing historically has done an incredible job of excluding women from the conversation. What the fuck? That's just retarded. Like... I'll drink white wine. I'll drink rosé. I drink beer. Alcohol doesn't have a gender. Why are you know, like, why would any company...
You either enjoy it or you don't.
That's exactly it. Why would any company go out of their way to exclude 50% of the population?
Okay, so next question is, now that you are where you are, what's next? 1,000 bars, locations, Dan Murphy's, BWS. What's next? I'm just pouring some whiskey, by the way.
What's next? Man, I don't really know. I think at the moment we're really focused on fixing. A lot of what we do as business owners, you know, and directors of the business is fixing things. You know, looking at what is... Trying to look ahead as much as possible, but, you know, trying to make things better wherever possible as well. And, you know, none of us have got a crystal ball, I guess. We're just... At this point in time, we're trying to push... Trying to sort of realign, you know, especially we've just promoted a new young guy to be our head brewer, so we've got some really positive change in our brewing team. So we're trying to foster that and push that and support that as much as possible. We have done a really great year of focusing on music, and so our marketing team, we're just about to get back together and say, well, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to fix for this next year. You know, our sales team have done a really great job. We're trying to work out what's been working there. We're really strong in our, you know, on-premise, our bar and pub relationship. What can we be doing better to look after bottle shops around the country? You know, we're a 7-year-old business, and it feels like this next year, really honestly, the business plan for this next year will be a lot of reflection and fine-tuning and tweaking and, in a weird fucking way, that's exciting.
Yeah. No, I get it. Especially when it's been the first however many years of dealing with less about optimizing. I mean, when you're optimizing, you're at a place where things are going pretty good. How do I get more out of it? How do I improve what I'm doing? How do I get more efficiency? How do I optimize it, right? But to get to that point means you are putting out fires constantly. You're always chasing your tail. You're always feel like you're one step forward, 2 steps back sort of thing. So I think the fact that you're at this place, this is great. What's your biggest challenge now, though?
What is the biggest issue right now?
You know, issue, but a challenge at least, or an obstacle.
Biggest challenge. I think our biggest challenge at the moment is we need to internally clarify just exactly what our purpose is and what our voice is across different markets, and we need to just refine that a little bit, I think. I think for a long time we've just been rolling with everything that feels right, and I think sometimes you actually need to reflect and be a little bit more self-critical. I think that is probably that's the phase we're heading into at the moment, and I think that will be the challenge of this year. Is actually will actually just be a bunch of moments of having to be honest and critical and having to listen to things that maybe we're not going to like. You know, I think that's probably that will be the challenge, because when you reassess things, you have to deal with whatever comes up. You know.
Yeah, that is going to be a challenge. I think you're at that maturity stage now where you're moving into this kind of adolescence. You're out of that early kind of startup stage of, are we going to make payroll this week or not? You know, as you do. So you're at that growing stage, and what you've done, which has been the thing that has been so important to your growth, is that gut feel, that instinct that this is, you know, what's right. But at a certain point, that starts getting questioned as to, well, how much can I rely on that versus what has to be done as well? There's certain things that just have to be done regardless of what my gut feel is, and sometimes my gut feel can be wrong in this new world that I'm still learning. And then taking this reflection on where the holes are in what you do in your business is very confronting. But I think if you're able to do it, then this unbiased view in what you guys do is going to allow you to take that next leap. I remember when I spoke to, sorry for everyone listening that I've kept reflecting on other podcasts that I've done before. But I remember when I spoke to Annabelle Chauncey. So she owns a non-for-profit, which is basically, she builds schools in Uganda, right? And she brought in these third-party consultants from, I don't know if it was Deloitte or McKinsey or someone. And basically, their role was just to poke holes in every single thing that she does. And she said how confronting and how painful it was, because it's her baby. It's the thing that she's built, and it's become successful to the extent that it has. And once again, she had no idea what she was walking into. She went to Africa and she said, I think these people need my help over here in Uganda now. Youthful naivety building what she'd hit and became successful to that point. But she realized that there was a limit, a roof in what she was doing and how far she was growing. And she realized that she needed this help. And when you have people coming in there who don't have any of that background, who don't have any of that story, that have journeyed with you and all the shit you've had to go through to get to where you've got to sit there and tell you, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're wasting your money here, you could be improving this, you could be doing all this sort of stuff. It hurts in a lot of ways because you feel like, have I done anything right? But if you can push that aside and purely take it for what it is and take it as, okay, well, there are these issues here, which I have a decision on what I actually want to work on, because you don't have to take everything. But if you have something that clearly says, well, okay, there is room for improvement here. This is what I'm willing to work on. This I will never compromise on. This is going back to before, you being very clear on your values, on your beliefs, on what makes you, when I say you, I mean you and the brand and the business, what it is. And because you are so still hands-on and so part of the business still, and I think that, and I believe that because of where you're coming from, the honesty where you're coming from, you'll be able to do that. I believe that you're going to look at these things whenever you do this review, this audit process. You can look at it and say, you know what? Yeah, we need to fix these things. Thank you. I'm glad we've identified that these are the areas that we can improve our scale, our operational efficiencies, our positioning in the markets, and whatever else. But we're never going to be doing that. We're never going to be compromising A, B, and C, because if we do that, I know we're going to lose it all.
And I think a lot of this process will be refining and it will actually intensify our gut feeling, if you know what I mean. You do a whole bunch of activities where you actually, at the end, you then have a clearly definable, this is our way forward. This is how we're doing it. These are the people we're doing it with, you know. It's sort of a, I don't know, it's an interesting thing coming towards the end of a financial year and having a chance to sort of regroup, start again, start the next financial year. Let's go.
Do you guys do that internal, or do you bring people in to help you define what that clarity direction is?
Nah, we do it internally. It's, I think, I know that we could learn a lot from people outside. I know that, but
here's the risk: is fucking with what's working, though. I mean, this is the thing. Is like me as a person who goes into businesses and helps kind of solve the unknown unknowns, like what's not working and so forth. Sometimes the risk happens where things are just working, and even if you don't know always what it is, sometimes it's best just to let it go.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's growing, if it's working, sure, there's little things that can be improved, but there's nothing's ever going to be perfect, right? I mean, if you don't want to taint, you don't want to invade the village and push on your ways to them, right? Let them be. They are the way that they are. I mean, let them. Sometimes you gotta let it be what it is.
Yeah, man. Don't scare the crazies.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know what? I really, honestly, there is a point in my day, every single day, when I'm at Young Henry's, where I actually feel naive. There are days where I go home from Young Henry's where I feel like I've failed. I've really, honestly, I put everything that I've got into this business, and I know that I don't have everything. You know, I've got some incredible business partners and some incredible people in our business around me that every person has got blind sides, you know what I mean? If I was the sole director of this business, I would have sunk this fucking business years ago, you know? You know, Adam, our CEO, who I share an office with, he comes from a finance background, and me and him argue over shit all the time. And generally, if we can agree on something, it's probably going to be right. One of our other directors and business owners, Dan Hampton, he's a really close friend of mine. He's the person I work with probably the closest in Young Henry's. He's our sales director. He sees things from a completely different perspective to me. And we disagree on things, and you know what? We have a really great relationship, and we can actually always, one of us will convince the other one, and we will eventually agree. You know, Richard, who's still he's one of the founders of this business. He's still the director of this business. He has the brewing knowledge, and he brings brewing and technical expertise. And so you've got this really interesting interplay of brewing, sales, finance, and whatever the fuck it is I do, you know, like, I guess, marketing and brand sort of stuff. And, you know, in those robust conversations between those four people, you know, I do feel naive. Adam will say things about the finance, and I'm like, well, yeah, shit, I didn't really think about that. But it's all right, because I own it. I own that naivety, and being naive in something that is not my expertise is actually okay, because I don't want it to cloud my alternate perspective to him.
Okay, so you've brought up something that we didn't touch on, which explains a lot. Is one of the things I was trying to work out is how do you grow without compromising who you are? What
you were trying to work out was how the fuck have they done this?
No, it's true. But
of course,
you asked. No. Hold a second. If it was that easy for me, I would love to set up an RTD gin company.
Yeah,
thought about
cool.
it. Great, love the idea. But there's a lot of fucking steps in my way, whether it be my own steps or other people's steps, that I think, I don't see how this is actually going to work. Now, with you, this is something that I want to get to. How the fuck did you do this? Regardless of all the hows before, one of the reasons how you've been able to scale is you've been able to keep the kernels of the creativity and honesty without it being tainted.
Yeah.
You said, whatever the fuck I do, you are you. That is what the fuck you do. Is that you keep things honest. You keep things young Henrys. I don't know what Rich is like, whatever, and I'm sure that's an equal part balance there as well. But because you haven't tried to be the finance expert or the sales expert, and you've allowed yourself to be who you are, that identity is what keeps on pulling everything through. It keeps things balanced out. You have realized, as all great owners, entrepreneurs, business people have, is that the trick isn't to know everything and be the best at everything. It's to bring in people who know what you don't. And as long as you have the nous to know if they're the right fit or not, and you can stay who you are, then you're able to create the balance. So you look at one of these beers here. So I've got the Young Henry's Newtowner. When you were first trying or tasting the tasting notes of the beer, you might have tasted something was out. This is too much of this, it's too much of that, it's too strong of this, too light of that. You're trying to get the balance right. The same as with your business. You're always trying to get the balance right. You're trying to get who's good at this, who's good at that. How do we find the right balance of the right people that allow us to be the thing that I know has to be right, without it ever compromising what it is. The product that we have in the Newtown or any of your beers, you knew in your gut, whether you could articulate it or not, and same with Rich, I'm sure, was the right product. This is good. This is good right now. I might not be able to exactly understand why it's good, but I know this is good. I know because I think it's good, someone else out there is going to think it's good because I'm connected to it. And so with your business, you've done the same thing. You've treated it like one of your beers, one of your creations. Is this the right balance? Are you the right person that works well with me? And are you the right person that works well with Rich and the salesperson and so forth? And sometimes you don't always know what that balance is through a conscious level, but sometimes it's just in your gut. Like, you would be right. I know you know what you're talking about. I feel that, but you're also a good balance for us. You balance me out. I'm the sort of person that can go off in the creativity and fly like a kite and come up with some crazy shit. But you're able to not just bring me back down, but articulate it or explain yourself in a way that I get it, and so we can both work together in it. And I think the fact that you're cognizant of what you know and what other people know versus, what works best, but also what works best together, like you would with your palate, has allowed you to be able to move the way that you have. Because that's from what I'm seeing, is that the fact that you've had these people that are experts in these other areas that you're not, but not just having them in there, but having the balance right, just to make it just so fine that it somehow works, that we're able to still grow and not lose out on the thing that makes us who we are, without losing on how we can still connect to the community or connect with niche brands or poets or artists or whatever to do what we're doing. And that's a fine line. I think it works because of the people. Like you said that. I said, why is it working? You said because of the people. But it's working because of the people, because you know how to get the balance right of the people, just as you are with your beer.
Yeah. Objectivity is a powerful thing, right? Yeah, I guess it is an interesting thing. I was having a conversation with our new head brewer the other day, and he was talking about the balance of his team. And obviously, I'm not part of our brew team. And he was just talking about these people, and it sounded like a coach talking about a football team or a basketball team, It's like, well, these people, they're trained across all of these different jobs, and so, all right, so these are my players, right? So I've got them over here. These players, I can see a lot of, I've got a lot of hope for, and I can see that they're on a great trajectory. So I need to focus more of my time on them and all this, is a real thing. Like you have to keep massaging and keep pushing. Like a group of humans, be it a community, be it a small team, be it a business, you need to keep working on it the whole time, right? And even us, I think one of the hardest things for me is as a group of owners and operators is sometimes I just wish there was someone that would just come and be like, hey mate, I've been noticing how you're going and here are some things that you could improve on. Fuck, I'd love a bit of feedback every once in a while. And look, I mean, me and my business partners give each other like honest feedback pretty well, but I do miss having someone sort of coaching, I guess.
Have you looked at coaches? Business without the woo-woo shit?
You know what? I think that that's something that will probably happen in my future. I think that everything that I've learned on the job. I've grown with this business, and I'm really, really thankful for that. I'm really appreciative of all those experiences. I know the Young Henry's business inside and out because I've delivered beer, I've brewed beer, I've kegged beer, I've been in the marketing team, I've done sales, I've worked behind the bar. I've experienced all the positions, most of the positions in our business. No one ever let me experience the accountant's positions, and that's probably for the best.
For a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, you did with the initial kegs that are coming through.
Yeah. And I think, look, I do think that you can always improve yourself, and sometimes you do need a little bit of outside perspective.
10%. So I tell everyone to invest 10% of however much they earn in themselves every year. In their personal education and development. So it doesn't matter if you earn 30 grand, if you earn $300,000 plus, 10%. You are your best investment, right? So you are where you are because of all the sort of experiences that you've had. But to grow or to even rationalize with certain things, you have to mature with it. And to do that, you need to be able to develop yourself. So and the hard part is finding the right thing to invest into, the right places to put that money to invest into yourself. But I always tell everyone, I always do it with myself, at least spend, if you're going to spend money on booze and going out and holidays and this sort of stuff that it's for all this fun and entertainment and well-being, invest in yourself, because that will pay exponentially back to you, whether it be right away or down the road. If you walk away with one thing that allows you to be a better leader, a better husband, a better dad, whatever it is in that circumstance, then it's all worth it, right? And so, 10%.
That's cool. I like that.
That's my philosophy anyway.
One thing that I started doing last year, which was, I guess, the first step towards this, I started reaching out to some people who I knew and who I really respect from, like industries, and catching up with them for lunch and sitting down and just talking. Different business owners from different, people that own bars and own restaurants, and just talking.
Yeah.
Just what's the biggest pain in your ass this month?
Yeah. Just having that reference of, what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah.
How did you deal with this?
Yeah. What are you stressing on? Maybe I've been through something that might help you. Maybe you're going through something that might help me in the future.
Yep.
Vice versa. Yep. And that was a really cool thing. And I think a large part of that was just knowing that most of the problems that all of us face
have been solved by someone.
Yeah. they're pretty common.
They're pretty common.
You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty rare that you're going to be facing something that no one else has faced before.
And I told you know what? You're 100% right. Whether it be in business or in personal life, the trials and tribulations you're going through, someone else has probably gone through it before or going through it now as well. And so just reaching out and talking to people. And this is why I've been doing these. I've told you before, for everyone else listening, I do these roundtable dinners and I connect the business leaders and entrepreneurs all together in this little private setting because of that. Because I know how isolating it can sometimes feel to have that pressure in what you're doing, right? You've taken, like you said, you've taken a mortgage on your house, you've done whatever it is, whatever the the stress or whatever it is on your life right now. I get how much that weighs on you, but I also understand how much it helps when you speak to other people who are going through it as well, or who have already solved that problem. How have they solved that staffing issue? How they solve that scaling issue? How they solve that investment and fundraising issue? How people have already done this thing, or they're going through it, or they've gone through it before. So by connecting people together, regardless of the cathartic value you get from it all, the pragmatic steps you're going to walk away with just by speaking to someone who knows what to do or is at that place, can help you so much more exponentially. So that's why I do these dinners. And you're going to come to one.
Yeah,
I'm going to get you to come to one.
Lock me in. I'll bring the beer.
Yeah. Don't worry. Well, it's at a restaurant, so we'll make sure they have Young Henry's. Okay, last two questions. I'll let you go. So you've got a child.
Yeah.
If you could give your child no money, network, no name of the McMahons, what would you want her to have? What beliefs or values would you want her to have?
If I could give my daughter anything, it would be self-belief and also the belief in the strength of your network, your people. The people around you, the people that love you, they will always help you. Be that with a job when you need one, a place when you need one, advice when you need it. The people around you are around you for a reason. And, you know, if you have a good group of people around you in your life, you've chosen them on a subconscious level because there is something about them that you respect. Sometimes when you know that whole thing of like people fall in with a bad crowd. You know, we know when we're in with a bad crowd. We know when we're off the rails as humans. We know it. You also know when you're around good people, and you know when you're around the people that actually will support your life. And those people always will. And sometimes it'll just be like handing on a phone number, or, you know, putting you in touch with one of their friends who, hey man, this guy's a good guy. You should hire him. He'll do a good job. Belief in yourself is really important, and also belief in the people that believe in you.
Wow. And last question is, people who wanted to follow you, find you, and support you, where can they go? What can they do?
Well, they can go to the pub.
This is the best answer I think I've ever had. Usually, you go on here, go and follow me there.
No.
Go to the pub.
Go to the pub.
Ask
have
for Young
beer.
Henry's, and you're supporting me.
Yeah, have a beer, and if you like it,
tell your friends.
Then you can tell your friends, or you can jump on the internet, and you can find everything that you want to find on there generally. But yeah, go to the pub. Make sure you don't go alone. Take a friend. Buy your friend a beer.
There you go.
Beer karma, man.
The best thing that you can do right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Oscar, thank you for your time, man. We'll let you go back to your family and friends, and we're going to catch up again. Thank you very much, my man. Bye-bye.
Thank you.